My America is a national advocacy organization, and we believe that by getting our citizens more engaged in the political process, by electing people that truly wish to serve us, and by working tirelessly and vocally to eradicate forces that are harmful to the democratic process, that we're going to be able to do some great things in an already great country. And events like this are extremely important to what we're working on, because what they do are bring leadership to the table and remind us that we all must be included, but that we're all welcome to be included. And I think that with some things that have been happening lately and the rhetoric and the disappointment in some of our leadership, that it's time to be reminded that we do have a place at this table. I'm honored to say who sits at the head of this table this evening, so to speak. Bob Graham is best known to Floridians for his service in the United States Senate, as well as his 2 terms as a Florida governor. And just to give you an idea of how well respected he is across the aisle, once he finished his service as a governor, then he still had an 83% approval rating across the board, which is unheard of. This is someone who is a centrist, he's someone that's a pragmatist, and he's someone that not only the citizens still respect, but his colleagues have nothing but amazing things to say about as well.
I'd been in public office for 38 straight years. Many of the things that had caused me to run for the Senate had been accomplished, but the Senate had also become a less pleasant, if I could use a mild word, place. When I went to the Senate in 1987, I would have speculated that about a third of the Senate were just a little bit right or left of the center line. Today, I think that number has declined to certainly less than 15. And the exodus has been to the end zone, where people can't hear each other talk, and therefore the gridlock and the partisanship has grown substantially more severe.
I want to ask you about our country's direction. Marco Rubio, when he ran for U.S. Senate successfully last year, talked a lot about American exceptionalism, right? We heard it a lot. John Huntsman, Utah governor, who's announced his candidacy for the Republican nomination today, he said today we were less powerful, less competitive, and this was unacceptable and un-American. Tim Pawlenty called President Obama a defeatist. But, you know, Senator, you're not running for office, so you can be candid. You don't have to, because I know that our candidates need to uplift our spirits. But aren't we a country in decline in some ways?
Well, we are in a country that needs to commit ourselves to an intergenerational responsibility. One of the things that concerns me in this last legislative session would be a prime example. Every decision where you posited what will be the easiest thing to do today versus what is the wise thing to do for the future lost. So I think that we have the opportunity, we have the resources, we have the human skills to avoid that decline, but we've got to have the political will to do some things that are going to be hard, will involve some change of our current pattern of action, but which are critical for the long-term well-being of the country.
Well, let's go back just a couple of years ago, and we had a Democratic president, Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, but you had to get 60 votes. And it seems to me we're talking about the decline of this country where, 50 votes aren't good enough anymore. So you've got as big a Democratic majority we may ever see in our lifetime. Who knows? And yet, not a lot was really done. I mean, healthcare was a major achievement, if you believe in that, but other things were not done. And this is with the whole Democratic Congress.
Yeah, well, we were talking about climate change.
Yeah.
The House passed a quite robust climate change bill by their rules, which is majority vote.
5 votes, yeah.
But the Senate couldn't pass it. They probably had the 50 votes plus one, 50% plus one, but they didn't have 60, so it didn't get enacted.
Right. So let's talk about BP, though, the BP oil spill, and you were on that commission reviewing what happened there. What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, my thoughts are that the BP oil spill should have been a wake-up call, but apparently it wasn't, even though the greatest man-made environmental disaster in the history of the country in terms of the extent of environmental damage and the economic cost. There is a ticking clock as to how much time America has to get off this addiction for fossil fuel. Now, there are some people who say, drill, baby, drill. Well, the consequence of that is will shorten the time before we are fully depleted and are 100% dependent on other people for an oil source. If we were to adopt that policy, the estimate is that America would drain its last drop of petroleum in the year 2031. Now, I certainly plan on being here in the year 2031, and I think everyone in this room plans on it. And I don't want to be there that year that we say America is no longer in the petroleum producing business, although we haven't made any other changes, and therefore we have this enormous dependency and vulnerability to others. So I think we need, what BP said to me was, we need to use these next few decades as aggressively as possible to make the transition from where we are today, using 22% of the world's petroleum, to a much reduced level, because we have brought online alternatives to fossil fuel, some of which are a little scary, like nuclear, but I think it's going to be part of the equation. Others are what has broad support, such as solar, wind, and other renewable sources of energy.
Well, Senator Bob Graham, it's been a great hour. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.